dimmer
So here we
objects,
go. Let's go
like
live now to
black
NASA
holes,
as we find
star
out what's
clusters,
going
and
on the
galaxies.
moon.
This was actually the first time SOFIA observed the moon, and we did it as a test case. Because the questions surrounding the moon's water were so compelling, we decided to use the observatory in a way not previously imagined. So in August of 2018, we decided to try a test observation on the moon. This discovery was made while we were flying over Nevada on our way back to our home base in Palmdale, California. What was essentially a test far exceeded our expectations. Now that we know we can do this, and given the importance of understanding the distribution of water on the moon and the origin of water in our solar system, we are planning more flights with SOFIA to collect more data. We are very excited that these follow-up observations will look for water in more sunlit locations to better understand how water is created, stored, and moves across the lunar surface over time. These observations will add to the data that NASA's next moon rover, the Viper mission, will collect to create the first water resource maps of the moon. Back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Naseem. NASA's space observatories allow us to study the universe in ways that are impossible from the ground. And although SOFIA is not a space observatory, it's an airborne observatory, it does allow us a view of the universe in the far infrared that is impossible from the ground because the water vapor in the Earth's atmosphere blocks this part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Today, we are announcing an important discovery by SOFIA, that the previously detected hydrogen on the sunlit surface of the moon is located in water molecules. This discovery raises new questions about how water is created on the surface of the moon and how it can persist in the harsh, airless, sunlit conditions of the lunar surface. Knowing how much water is on the moon and how we might be able to use it in the future supports NASA's long-term human exploration goals into deep space. NASA will continue to leverage all of its assets, including SOFIA, the world's premier airborne observatory, to contribute to the success of the Artemis mission and NASA's human exploration programs. Alicia?
Thanks, Paul. Media resources for this announcement is available on nasa.gov/SOFIA and can also be found on our press release. We will now start the question and answer session. Sarah Noble, Headquarter Lunar Scientist, will also be joining us to cover your questions. We will limit everyone to one question. Our operator should identify you, but if not, please identify yourself, your media affiliation, and then direct your question to a specific panelist if possible. For those dialing in, push *1 keys on your phone to be placed into queue. To ask a question using Twitter, please use the hashtag AskNASA. And with that, let's begin. Let's start with Jeff Faust from Space News.
To the moon, whether they are orbiters or some of the landers beyond, obviously, the Viper rover, might be used to better characterize the water signal that you saw with SOFIA. Is there anything currently on the books that would help in that regard? Thanks.
This is Jake. I'm sorry, we missed the very beginning of your question. Could you maybe restate it, please?
Sure. Let me try and summarize. Are any of the upcoming missions, whether they are orbiters or landers, including payloads on CLPS landers, useful in helping to better characterize the water signal you saw with SOFIA? Thanks.
Yeah, I can give you a little background on some additional CLPS capabilities that we're looking at. The CLPS flights, or commercial lunar payload services, will leverage capabilities of industry partners to quickly deliver scientific instruments, technology demonstrations to the moon. As part of that, NASA will be sending dozens of science investigations and technology experiments to the surface that will help us find and potentially extract later resources on the moon. So just an example of some of these that we're looking at moving forward. One would be the mass spectrometer observing lunar operations, or MSOLO. MSOLO will identify low molecular weight volatiles. It can be installed to either measure the lunar exosphere or even things like spacecraft outgassing and contamination, because we also want to understand what our presence might be doing to the water and the precious volatiles there. So data gathered from MSOLO will help determine the composition and concentration of these potentially accessible resources. Another example would be a neutron spectrometer system, NSS. NSS will search for indications of water, ice near the lunar surface by measuring how much hydrogen-bearing materials are at a landing site and help determine the overall bulk composition of the regolith around it. Another example would be the near-infrared volatile spectrometer.
All right, so you listened to exactly what NASA made the announcement. Water found on the sunlit side of the moon. The thought process is now, how do they use that for the upcoming mission to the moon, where they're going to hopefully put a man and the first woman ever on the moon in 2024?
They tweeted out, "We don't know yet if we can use it as a resource, but learning about water on the moon is key, as Aaron mentioned, for the Artemis exploration plans." And after Artemis in 2024, the hope is then to maybe have that as a space station, a settlement there on the moon, that they can then launch exploration to Mars in 2030s.
All right, so take a look at your screen right now. What you are seeing is the water molecule that that airplane carrying a giant telescope was able to locate on the moon. We are live right now on News Nation and WGN America's Facebook page. So if you're there, give us a shout out and let us know what you think about this moon. I did see someone on here, if I can find it quickly, after hearing that, they said they were thirsty. Peter Dow, I'm thirsty. Well done, Peter. Shelley says, she questioned, was it made of cheese all along? No, that wasn't the announcement. The announcement was that water molecule on your screen.
And we just want to mention that this is through discoveries of SOFIA, which stands for Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, and this is a 9-foot telescope that's on a modified Boeing 747. It's an aircraft that flies high in the atmosphere to provide a clear view of objects in the solar system.
All right, so coming up right back here on newsnationnow.com and the News Nation Facebook page, I'm going to have the chance to visit with Nasim Rangwala. She's one of the scientists, you actually heard her speak on this, about this scientific breakthrough. What does it really mean, and in layman's term for you at home and for me to understand, how is this going to change missions to the moon, and what does that mean for the future of space exploration, really?
And they tweeted out, "SOFIA telescope, we detected water on the moon's sunlit surface for the first time. This suggests water may be distributed across the lunar surface and not limited to cold, shadowed places."
All right, so a lot of interesting things going on. Still, who knows what's next? This press conference continuing to go on right now. But we wanted to let you know exactly what was going on. Water found on the sunlit surface of the moon. Exciting times by a big old telescope that was flying above our atmosphere.
Absolutely, and stay tuned for Aaron's interview as well.
Yep, Nasim Rangwala will join us. We're going to get started about 12:50. So here in Central Time, in about an hour and a half, we'll be right back here on newsnationnow.com.
Signing off, I'm Jisoo Ki.
And I'm Aaron Nolan. See you next time.